In addition to our appearance and our character, our voice is also one of our main characteristics that identify us. Of course, this also applies to the greatest personalities in our history. But of many of these people, we don't know what they really sounded like. In this video, we present you sound recordings that give you a unique insight into history and make historical persons seem resurrected. So stay tuned and learn something in your
Daily Input.
Let's start with Thomas Alva Edison, the inventor of the phonograph. The device that made it possible for the first time to record sound at all and then reproduce it. Edison was an American inventor who lived from 1847 to 1931 and was known for his innovations in electrical engineering. He became famous mainly through the invention of the light bulb. But today we are talking about the phonograph. This device was able to record sound waves on tin foil and then reproduce them. 7 years ago, scientists were able to digitize sound recordings of these films for the first time. In this first sound recording of humans, you can hear Edison reciting the children's rhyme "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Although it is very unclear, it is still understandable. Just listen to it for yourself. A few years later, Edison re-recorded the same poem, but with much improved technology.
First words I spoke in the original phonograph. A little piece of practical poetry. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Although Edison is officially regarded as the inventor of the phonograph and also as the first person who was ever able to record sound, historians do not agree on this. According to a couple of scientists, the French bookseller and inventor, Edouard Léon Scott de Martinville, invented the phonograph before Edison. He lived from 1817 to 1879 and invented his device in an age of 40. Edison was 10 years old at the time. He could only record sound but couldn't play it. The sound was simply recorded on paper. Since many of these recordings have been preserved to this day, sound engineers have succeeded in reconstructing this audio very precisely. In this papers he sings the folk song Au clair de la lune for 20 seconds. What follows now is probably the first sound recording in the world, from April 1860. Let us now turn to one of the most important composers in history, Johannes Brahms. He lived from 1833 to 1897, and his orchestral works and symphonies are still performed today. In 1889, Brahms met Adelbert Wangemann, a commercial traveler, in Vienna. Wangemann worked for Edison, which we introduced at the beginning of the video. He was commissioned to present the phonograph in Europe. Brahms was so enthusiastic about the technology that he had several of his pieces recorded directly. By the way, there was also a recording in which you can hear Brahms' voice. It is only a single sentence and the only existing sound recording of Brahms. Then he sat down at the piano and played. This was also recorded. Next, we come from an ingenious musician to a brilliant scientist who is still well known to many today. His research in the field of theoretical physics, especially quantum physics, still occupies science today. He is also considered the epitome of a genius. Although Einstein was born in Ulm in 1879, he gave up his nationality and from then on lived in America. There it came to this video recording. It shows a conversation between Einstein and the founder of Universal Studios, Carl Laemmle. The topic of the conversation is a sound interview, which Einstein should give afterwards.
Vergessen Sie das vor dem Mikrofon stehen,
Ja, natürlich. Ich bin schon so viel gestanden. Ich bin schon so viel gestanden, dass es auf mich keinen großen Eindruck mehr hat.
Keinen guten Eindruck?
Keinen großen Eindruck.
Waren Sie schon vor dem Mikrofon gestanden?
Ja,
so,
ja schon öfter.
Oh.
Es sind auch
Das liegt in
Sprechfilme von
Archiven,
mir
aber die liegen
für
in
Archive.
Archive. Die liegen in Archiven
Oh, ja.
und werden nicht gezeigt, solange er lebt.
wenn nicht mehr lebt, der Reaktive ist.
Das ist was anderes.
As a result, recordings of the scientist were also made in English. The English is not his native language, you quickly notice, but listen for yourself.
The common language of science. The first step towards language was to link acoustically or otherwise commutable signs to sense impressions. Most likely, all sociable animals have arrived at this primitive kind of communication.
Another interesting sound recording is by the physicist and chemist Marie Curie. She was born in Warsaw in 1867 and then lived in France. She has made the discovery of helium, tritium and polonium world famous, pushing the research on nuclear power. She even received the Nobel Prize several times for her work. In 1931 she was awarded a golden medal by the American Radiology Society. A short interview with Marie Curie, who was 64 years old at the time, was also made in this honor. It's in French, but it's still worth listening to.
Du Collège américain de radiologie et de la Société américaine de radiologie pour le témoignage d'estime qu'elle m'a apporté ici et auquel je suis extrêmement sensible.
The physicist died only 3 years after this recording because she was exposed to high radiation all her life. Finally, a person who, unlike all the people in this list, has not contributed to the advancement of humanity. Quite the opposite. Its effect cost many people to live. Most people already know how Hitler sounds, as most of his speeches have led to his fame. But there is also a private sound recording, which allows a different view of Hitler. Hitler met during a train ride with the Finnish general Karl Mannerheim. A sound engineer secretly installed 2 microphones above the window and recorded the conversation.
Das hätten wir nicht geahnt im Winterkrieg. Im Winterkrieg hätten wir das nicht geahnt. Natürlich hatten wir den Eindruck, dass sie gut gerüstet waren. Aber so, wie sie in Wirklichkeit. Und jetzt ist ihm gar kein Zweifel, was sie hatten in ihren Schild.
Ganz klar.
Das ist
Sie haben die ungeheuerste Rüstung, die Menschen denkbar ist. Also, wenn mir jemand gesagt hätte, dass ein Stab mit Wenn mir jemand gesagt hätte, dass ein Stab mit 35.000 Punks antreten kann, dann hätte ich gesagt, Sie sind wahnsinnig. 35.000 Panzer. Wir haben zurzeit über 34.000 Panzer vernichtet. Wenn mir das jemand gesagt hätte, ich hätte gesagt, wenn mir ein General von mir erklärt hätte, dass hier ein Stab 35.000 Panzer sind, ich gesagt, Sie, Herr, Sie sehen alles doppelt oder zehnfach. Das ist Wahnsinn, Sie sehen Gespenster.
Write in the comments how you imagine the voices of this historic peoples and how you now think about the people. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.